Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our stream, or our theme number 3, which is innovation. And of course, I will be having a wonderful session of panelists here. Again, we're following the same format as before. We will start with a keynote speaker, then we will have a Slido poll. So again, keep your smartphones to hand so that we can have a look at what people in the room think, and our panelists can reflect on that as we go through the conversation. My name's Jennifer Baker. I'm an EU policy journalist here in Brussels. I'm going to be the moderator for this session, which is entitled Innovating for a Sustainable Future. Now, Horizon Europe is the EU's key funding programme for research and innovation and covers a very wide range of instruments to support the European Green Deal. And among the different instruments, the CBE JU is specifically focusing on circular bioeconomy as a key part. That's a given. So we're going to park all of that and we're going to talk about what are the challenges and where might be those great key solutions. What is the low-hanging fruit, and what is a bigger hurdle that we need to strategically think about? So we're going to come together and try and identify some practical solutions, possibly to propose to the CBE joint undertaking stakeholders of the future. So if we bear that in mind during the conversation, because I know there's going to be plenty of comments from the room, as you're all experts here today. With that, I'm going to hand over to Sari Tasa, who is chair of the CBE JU Stakeholders States Representatives Group, and also senior advisor at the Finnish Ministry of Economic Affairs and Employment. Thank you, Sari.
Everybody, it was very nice to join you all here yesterday when it was Finland's Independence Day, and today again then widened the scope to the European level. Thank you also for this possibility to join this panel today. I was preparing my speech well in advance, but when I was listening to the speeches here, I totally rewrote it just a few minutes ago. And I think we are discussing about the bioeconomy now in a totally new voice. It is not sharing the idea of true believers to each other, but we also have found also the other tone. This is more than welcome. We are challenged not just by the climate change and biodiversity issues, but also for the competition from other continents, for example. And they seem to move faster and more flexible than what we are doing. Well, innovations for the future must address all these challenges and add something new. Circularity sets the demand for systemic change that requires closer cross-sectoral cooperation and collaboration, and that is also something that we have seen in quite many of votes today and also yesterday. To make this change happening, we need to build the transition pathway. I think that is also one of the bingo words in Green Deal, but it is a true issue that we have to handle. I would like to use the metaphor of building the bridge over the troubled water when dealing the issue. The bridge needs a solid ground, and the solid ground is something that the public sector, like Commission and Parliament and ministries and regions, can build. It's a collaboration work also in this part. It includes regulation, it includes how do we use the land in our countries, and many steps there between. The bioeconomy is not just one sector, but covers so many areas of regulation, for example, and also instruments to support. We need to be more resourced. I don't say that we need to do less, but we need to be more resourced to check the impact analysis of the regulation we are making so that we can make coherent regulation, so that we are not stopping something somewhere just by small words. So these regulatory sandboxes could be a very interesting idea, not just for the innovators to try their innovations, but also for the regulators to see what is the hindering factors there. Well, when we make the solid ground like this, and it is predictable for the innovators, the innovations can start happening and building the bridge, but they can build it only to the halfway. For this halfway, we also need then the public funding, and I asked Bing artificial intelligence about the public funding in EU funding in bioeconomy. How does that write it? And the Bing wrote me a speech like this. Instruments that can address specific needs and challenges of the bioeconomy sectors and regions. Instruments that can ensure sustainability, circularity, and inclusiveness of bioeconomy. Now starts the fun part. This is not by me. Unfortunately, the current EU funding landscape for the bioeconomy is fragmented, complex, and insufficient. There are multiple instruments, programs, and initiatives, but they are often disconnected, overlapping, or contradictory. There are gaps, barriers, and bottlenecks that hinder the development of deployment of the bioeconomy. There are also trade-offs, risks, and uncertainties that need to be carefully assessed and managed. This is why we need to rethink and reform the EU funding instruments for the bioeconomy. We need to streamline and simplify them, making them more coherent, consistent, and complementary, and so on. And then Bing takes an example. We have some examples of good practices and promising initiatives, such as Bio-Based Industry Joint Undertaking, now Circular Bio-Based Europe Joint Undertaking. So, yes, we are doing the right thing here today. As artificial intelligence picked up these statements, they are shared by many if they are found in internet in way of that. So something needs to be done. When innovations are maturing, we need to industrialize them, and this is the second part of the bridge. Bioeconomy should be then integral part of the industrial policy and instruments of the EU. That is the other very important part of the bridge, making the demand side coming true. And the final gate is then customer acceptance and market demand. The link to innovations must be encouraged so that the businesses and the research talk to each other more, but also the normal customers, because we need that acceptance by them. And also public procurement is a good tool to make the speed faster. In the opening ceremony, we were asked to think about the narrative. And for this public acceptance, I think the narrative is a very important part, so that we are honest for all the positive sides, but also what risks are there included and how we are going to handle them. So what is missing? We are used to work in a linear way of value chains and compete each other. The researchers are competing about the same money, the countries are competing against each other, the companies are competing against each other. Systemic change is not something we can regulate. Well, depending what kind of country you are, if you are a bit less democratic, you may be able to command the new way of doing things. But in democratic countries like European area, we need this change to happen between our ears. So it's each and every one of you and me and our families and our friends and our colleagues that makes that quick change possible. We need to understand what is there against us. We need to find, as mentioned already this morning, faster ways to the collaboration mode, so that we find each other more efficiently could be also good way to be more competitive. That was also the word yesterday mentioned that need to be used more. It is not just researchers or companies that need to collaborate, but when we take the circularity into the game, public sector has very often also the role here. So these kind of joint undertakings, public-private partnerships are more than needed. As even artificially intelligent being recognizes, the CBE joint undertaking is one of the answers to the original question. So I would like to welcome all on board to PIC, to the CBE joint undertaking programs. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Sari. And of course, Sari is staying with us for our panel discussion. Before we do that, let's have a Slido poll. So grab your phones. You can go to slido.com and put in #Innovate as the code, or you can scan the very big QR code on the screen. And that will take you to a page where you should see a question asking you what should support for future innovation come from? So where should it come from? EU funding, national government schemes, universities and startup education hubs, private companies or other. We'll leave that running and you can all vote on that while I introduce our panelists and call them up to the stage. So let me begin by introducing once again Peter Verheim, who is Head of Unit for Bioeconomy and Food Systems at Directorate-General for Research and Innovation in the European Commission. Thank you very much, Peter, one of many from his department. We have also joining us from the European Parliament, Maria da Graça Carvalho, MEP and Rapporteur, as well as the EPP Vice Coordinator for the ITRA Committee. Please come and grab a seat, ladies and gentlemen. We also have Orsolya Frizon, who is Deputy Head of Unit for Research and Innovation within the Directorate-General for Agriculture and Rural Development at the European Commission. Feel free to take a seat wherever you feel comfortable. Thank you, Orsolya, as well. Kristin Schreiber is the Director for Ecosystems, Chemicals, Food and Retail in DG GROW at the Commission. Jukka Kantola is a founder and CEO, as well as a passionate advocate for the circular economy from World Bioeconomy Forum. He will tell us more about that. And last but not least, Mark O'Rourke is the Public Affairs and Sustainability Head at Bio-Based Industries Consortium. Thank you all very much for joining us today, and I am sure we're looking forward to your insights. Let me first go back and have a look at how people are voting in terms of where they think support should come from. 51% say EU funding. Well, we've got a few Commission representatives here on the panel, so probably not surprising that that message is sent. Private companies, 34%. Other is 8%, and perhaps we'll explore what that other might be during the conversation. National government schemes, only 6%, and universities and startup education hubs, just only around 4%. So we can see there EU funding and private companies way out in front. We'll examine a bit of that as we go through our conversation, but we are talking about building a sustainable future. So we're taking, if you like, a little bit of the long view. So Peter, let me start with you. Give us an introduction to what's happening at the moment. What are the funding instruments available? People are very, very interested. I know it's common practice in Brussels when we have institutions on a panel to say we need resources, but take us a little bit beyond the headlines.
Thank you, Jennifer. Indeed, many Peters around here. This, I'm sure, will be also a very, very nice panel with a good country representation from Finland. That's always nice. Good morning. My pleasure to take part here in the CBE stakeholder meeting. Before going into the hardcore finance issues, let me maybe just paint a bit of a bigger picture. Where do we come from and where do we want to go? And I would argue we have come a long way on the bioeconomy already. Sari, you mentioned that to walk over the bridge of troubled waters, that's a nice picture. I would argue in innovating for a sustainable future, we need to walk over a bridge, but we certainly shouldn't walk alone. I think we have already heard also in previous panels that we need to take the consumers along, we need to take the producers along, but I would even say we should take the policymakers along. And in that respect, we have already walked a long way, because we started out talking about the bioeconomy 20, 30 years ago. In the European Union, we started to talk about the concept of the circular and sustainable bioeconomy 20 years ago with member states, and member states supported that at the time new concept for its potential to deliver to economic, to social and ecological objectives. We have then adopted in 2012 our first EU bioeconomy strategy. We have updated that strategy in 2018. That was also a novelty, because it was really not a sectoral strategy, but it really was an intersectoral strategy which was owned, co-owned and co-created by even also within the Commission by many services. I think that was very important that we have done that work together. Over the last years, we have implemented the strategy. We have and that has built up momentum. We have different priorities within the strategy, but a very important priority is, of course, to support the deployment of bio-based industries, but another one is also to support the deployment of multiple bioeconomies. Yeah? The bioeconomies need to be locally connected, and we have supported member states in developing national bioeconomy strategies. We have, in the meantime, in the EU, 10 member states that do have a bioeconomy strategy. We have Sweden, Croatia that are working on their strategies, hopefully coming forward next year. We have more than 28 regional strategies. We have many local strategies. And all of these have helped to also get the attention of the policymakers, and this is really very important. In 2019 then came the European Green Deal at EU level, and I would argue that there is a high level of similarity also between the objectives of the European Green Deal and the bioeconomy, also in view of their holistic approach and the aim to address the three dimensions of sustainability. We have then also adopted last year our progress report on the EU bioeconomy strategy, and have seen that we have made very good progress, and have are also supporting innovation for a sustainable future through our bioeconomy strategy. And we have also seen then earlier this year conclusions from the Agriculture and Fishery Councils from all 27 member states in support of a sustainable and circular bioeconomy. So this is one important thing, and momentum is building on the policy side. Let me secondly also mention that bioeconomy, circular sustainable bioeconomy, comes from research and innovation. Yeah? It has been rooted in research and innovation. The connection to life sciences was very important, but that link has been expanded and deepened over the last 10 years, and we have now, with Horizon Europe, a very strong instrument that supports the circular and sustainable bioeconomy in various ways, specifically through Cluster 6, overall more than 9 billion euros for 7 years to the entire a cluster around agriculture, food, bioeconomy, environment, so a very wide area, but a lot of funding to support innovation for a sustainable future. A third aspect I would like to mention is that to not only innovate, but to make sure that it arrives in the market, that it is adopted by the consumers, we also need to have good connections with the stakeholders. And we have, I would say, in the bioeconomy, a very good stakeholder community. You are a very important part of the stakeholder community. We have had we have built very good networks in Europe. I think that was also mentioned in the previous session. The network and building the networks, communities of practice around a circular and sustainable bioeconomy. That's one of the areas where we are strong. We have seen recently many stakeholder manifestos, and we also will organize from the Commission side a bioeconomy festival early next year in March, 13th and 14th of March next year here in Brussels, where stakeholder engagement, youth, innovation will really feature very prominently, and I can come back to that later. And the last point I want to mention, sorry for being long, but to really be successful on innovation, I think we can't do it by our own, but we need to walk with the entire global community. And therefore, I think it's also very good that Jukka Kantola is here for the World Bioeconomy Forum, but we have many other global bioeconomy initiatives. We have the Global Bioeconomy Summit, which will also convene next year in Africa, most likely in Kenya. And this is very important. We have seen in October that the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations in Rome has shown a very strong dedication on the circular and sustainable bioeconomy. They have last week at the FAO Council heard messages from all the member countries that bioeconomy should be a strategic priority for the FAO. So we see very positive momentum around the world. And I think that is really important to create overall a very positive possibility to support for innovating for a sustainable future. Let me stop here. Happy to come back on many of these points.
Well, thank you very much, Peter. You've given us a potted history of where we've got to today. Maria, let me hand over to you just for your opening remarks, set the scene on what you consider the most important elements. And, yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation to be here today with you in this conference. As I have followed the development of this joint undertaking from the first beginning. I remember I co-organized with Commissioner Gagan Quinn an event to draw the attention for the need to have a joint undertaking in a circular economy and bio-based circular economy. And after that, I have been following, being rapporteur, and I have been rapporteur of the last edition of the joint undertaking. So I think that this joint undertaking model is a very important model because it puts the public and the private sector working together, and also the funding. And I hope that this continues and gets even to a larger scale in terms of funding and in terms of involvement of stakeholders. And as it was said, we have the component of the legislative component, and there we have done a lot, both in proposed by the Commission and approved by the Parliament and the Council. So we have a very strong legislative component, both on the Green Deal and including the circular economy and the bio-base. But legislative is one point, but we need the research and innovation, and we need the whole ecosystem. And on the research and innovation and the whole ecosystem that should accompany the legislative process, we need to pay special attention. We need to pay special attention for the near future and the medium term. And I'm particularly worried about what is coming up in the future. Mainly on the funding for the future FP10, and we have started in the European Parliament pushing for an increase of the budget, because we are worried, so we need to start creating the momentum that will allow us to have proper funding on research and innovation. And for the time being, it's important to ask the whole FP10. That's the first point, because if we don't have a proper figure for FP10, we cannot ensure a good funding for circular economy or for health or other subjects. So that is our first priority. We have been asking and started campaigning, asking for a doubling of the budget, knowing that is an ambitious figure, but it's something that when you request and you start a campaign, you need to be ambitious. Otherwise, the starting point will affect what will happen after. And I'm worried because of the geopolitical scenario that we are in Europe, with some of the difficulties of most of our member states in budget questions. So it's going to be a very difficult European budget to negotiate, and inside the European budget, the research and innovation is always a place where other special new policies try to get budget out. And as you know, there is a lot of pressure for defense and security, so that are expensive areas. So we are a bit worried, but we are working for to get a good funding for the future of research and innovation. So funding is one aspect. What we do with that funding is also very important. And as it was said, we continue to have a lot of fragmentation in all areas, but also here. So we should make it FP10 simpler in terms of structure, so that we don't find the same subject spread out in many areas, in many places. So we have less fragmentation. That is important. On the joint undertaking itself, I hope that it continues as an instrument, because I think that is a very good instrument and good for this particular area. I have in the report and for this term made it more flexible, but I think that we should go further on that. Flexibility, also simplification, open to the stakeholders, being large, small, universities or companies. That is also another point that I have pushed very much, that there is a more diverse composition of the stakeholders, that there is also a special attention to the geographical distribution, that excellent is the only criteria, but we have schemes that we push areas that are less represented to be more present, like doing information days, workshops in countries or regions that are less represented, because you have excellence in this area in many places, and some of these places are still not represented in the joint undertaking. So that is something that I already introduced in the previous joint undertaking, that I think that should go further. And this, another point that I think I also introduced, but I would like to reinforce, is that it should cover the whole chain of the research and innovation. The present Horizon Europe, not only in this area, but in all the areas, and this it was already present in Horizon 2020, and I'm entitled to criticize because I was also rapporteur of Horizon 2020. There is not a strong link between the more fundamental research and the more applied research. So there is like some parts you do fundamental research, in others you do application, and there is no link and communication. So it's very important that the joint undertaking also have more fundamental research embedded, and from there, from the development of for these results, after they apply and they transport this to the economy and to the society. So these things that we have introduced, but I would like to see it more reinforced in the future.
Thank you, Maria. Orsolya, let me turn to you. You're from DG Agri and Rural Development, which often is left out of the statement. So I know you're looking at primary producers, you have a wider focus. Give us your opening thoughts.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having invited me to this very interesting breakout session. Yes, I am from DG Agri, and we have the luxury to do our own research innovation when it relates to agriculture, forestry, and rural areas. And as we are speaking about sustainable future and what we can do to make it more sustainable, and what role innovation can play there, maybe I will take some minutes to provide you some key elements. What are the main challenges that our sectors are facing? And so where do we see the bioeconomy role? The main challenges that farming sector, forestry, rural areas face are mostly the same than in other sectors: climate change, geopolitical issues, but also very high expectations. What we expect from our farmers is that they produce more to ensure food security, to do it at an affordable price, and at the same time to reduce the environmental impact of what they do. And that is challenging. And we have a problem in our sectors and in our rural areas, the question of attractiveness. We have an aging population in the sectors and in the rural areas, at least in the remote ones. So we try to find solutions to make those sectors and rural areas more vibrant, more viable and attractive for newcomers, and also those that are already there to be able to stay there and to also earn sufficient living from their activities. And that I've come to the question of bioeconomy. Of course, our farmers, foresters produce the biomass that we use in the bioeconomy. The question is how we look on them, whether we consider them just simply as a biomass providers, or whether they will be able to join these bioeconomy opportunities to also be part of these magical tools that it could provide. Because that could provide for them additional income, a risk management tool when you have a high volatility of the incomes coming from the primary production, their main activities, which is, for example, agriculture, primary production. So we are very much looking on these opportunities. And Sari, you also said that's the question of, and that's why it's so nice that we have this joint undertaking, need for public-private cooperation, especially when it comes to rural areas, how we can involve them in this bioeconomy solution. In our case, when it comes to the Common Agriculture Policy, we are also very much focusing on circular solutions to reduce the impact of our primary production. So we see many opportunities there, and that is why DG Agri is supporting the joint undertaking now for a long time. And I hope in today's discussion, and I will not be longer, we will have time to discuss how industry also see our role, meaning our role, farmers' role, foresters' role, rural community roles, how we can improve that to ensure that whatever we do, also in the frame of the joint undertaking, we'll reach out to the farmers. We'll reach out to the farmers, to the rural communities, and not only as a users of the solutions that you are developing, but also part of the solution. Because that can have, we used to say, a win-win position, both for the industries as a market opportunity, where also the CAP can play a role for deployment of solutions, but also a possibility for an additional income and a reduction of the cost if we come to circular solutions for our primary producers. And maybe there, if we could progress, that could make a change. If we find good solutions for that, we will be able to reach out more easily the Green Deal targets. Because at the end, the objective that we have, but we all have the same objective, it's also clearly stated in our Common Agriculture Policy, is the three parts of sustainability: economically, environmentally, and socially. And for that, yes, bioeconomy is one of the tools that can help us to reach that. And maybe just a last thing, when we speak about biomass, we need to speak about biomass that is of good quality. And we speak about trade-offs, we have trade-offs. With the CAP and other Horizon Europe, we are working very strongly on improving, for example, soil health. And on the Horizon Europe, we have a very new and highly budgeted new initiative, Soil Mission, which is about improving soil health. And just to make these connections, bioeconomy will be viable if you have a healthy biomass. So there are all these interconnections that we can make also with the use of the GU. And that is why also, as I said, DG Agri is participating to this initiative. So I hope that we'll have a nice discussion on that today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Orsolya. Christine, you're coming to us from DG Grow, so yet another Commission representative to give a slightly different perspective. Give us your thoughts, your opening position. Obviously, we're thinking about competitiveness and stuff as well as sustainability.
Yes, thank you very much. And you can see from the presence of different parts of the Commission how important the topic of the bioeconomy, biotech is for all of us in the Commission. And of course, innovation is at the center of it. And I would like actually to pick up where Peter left it, to recall indeed that I think we have a very important momentum now for bioeconomy, biotech. I think we had a first momentum. We were discussing this by coincidence of calendar yesterday, and Peter was there as well. We had a meeting with several Americans who are part of a commission who's actually doing a strategic report on the role of biotech for the US. And where we actually discussed that there was already a big momentum at the beginning of the 90s, and then we took all the initiatives which Peter explained. And I think we concurred that now there is a new big momentum because basically the US, but also China, have identified, and ourselves, the biotech and the bioeconomy as a very crucial technology for innovation and for really the 21st century. And I have to say a little comment on the Slido. As much as I love our EU funding, and I think it's important, I think the figures are, maybe there's a bias in the audience because everybody loves, and rightly so, the joint undertaking. But I would hope that national government schemes are also quite important in many areas for innovation, and then universities and startups, 3%. If that is the case, only that's the perception for people, I think we have to do quite a bit, because I think a lot of innovation can also come from that area. But that's just a side remark. I think what is important when we look at innovation, and of course the importance of bioeconomy, biotech for competitiveness, is that we have a slightly new dimension today, which we didn't have when we had the first, I would say, major boost on biotech early on. We have the issue of strategic autonomy, which doesn't mean autarky, or it doesn't mean that we don't want to do, we want to be completely dissociated from our major trading partners. But I think from the competitiveness narratives, this strategic autonomy consideration that you want to reduce dependencies is a very important one. And of course, the bioeconomy can play an important role in this context, because a lot of the materials used are, of course, available at short distance in a local or closer context. And I think that's one important consideration, which also explains why there are all these strategies now in different parts of the world popping up. And when you read, for instance, the Chinese strategy, it's very clear that this is also a consideration there. And I think the other important aspect that links up, the new element that links up very closely with, of course, the work undertaken by the joint undertaking, is the bigger focus on Green Deal, on green solutions, circularity. And I would say, and I mean, I was actually involved when we had the first biotech communication, which was adopted by the Commission in 1991, so more than 30 years ago. This focus on bringing innovative solutions to environmental issues and the green focus was much less present than now. So I think we have a very good configuration now for taking this forward together. Colleagues have already highlighted the importance, and Maria, you as well, that we need to make sure that for the next framework program, we make it particularly sure, and that is of course the aspect which is very relevant for us in DG GROW, that we really help companies scale, and that we manage to bring this famous innovation to the market. And so this is something we will have a particular focus on when we look at the devising of the next program. And of course, I think all of you here, you are really invited to bring in, I would say, also your perspective, how we can make sure that we actually manage to scale all these wonderful innovation and research results which we're actually having in Europe. And the other quick point I wanted to flag, which I think is also very important in this context, you know that the Commission President has announced a biotech biomanufacturing initiative in her State of the Union speech. She referred to it again yesterday. I was debriefed from the agri. We have everything happening at the same time at the moment. There are also big agri-food days going on, and there she actually also referred to this initiative, including in the context, in the food context. So we will work on such an initiative, I mean, in DG GROW, but together, of course, with all the different Commission services, because this is not something which can be done by one service alone, but I think you need a joint up approach from all the different parts of the Commission, and we will put forward an initiative at the beginning of next year. Obviously, you all know that we are at the end of the mandate of this Commission. We will have parliamentary elections coming soon, so it will certainly not be full of legislative proposals, because that wouldn't make a lot of sense at this juncture, but we will try to see that we have some, I would say, immediate deliverables and immediate sort of highlights of what needs to be done in order to make sure that biotech and the bioeconomy can move forward, but also lay down a roadmap and suggestions for the next Commission, so that we can then pick things up and have very important initiatives. And I would say both reducing bottlenecks which exist now, and of course coming forward with proactive initiatives. So that would be my sort of very general starting point.
Well, thank you very much, because indeed what we're going to try and seek to do from these sessions is create some feedback for the stakeholders of the future, as some advice and lessons learned. Jukka, let me turn to you. Perhaps you can give us a bit of background on what you're working on. Tell us a bit about yourself as well. We're very familiar with the Commission, so perhaps a little bit of background from you would be good.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. With a pleasure. So I'm happy that it's only one Jukka here and not that many as Peter, so you cannot get confused with me. So anyhow, I'm very pleased to be in this occasion, and I'm going to tell you a few points about what we do within the World Bioeconomy Forum. Some of you might be familiar of it, and I hope that after this, the rest of you also do know that what are our main activities. And then maybe a few words, if time allows, about how do we see then the global bioeconomy, how it is now evolving, as Sari was mentioning some points of it. I would like to share that, how do we see the development of it? We have heard quite a lot already about what's up here in EU, but what about the rest of the world? What do they do in the other continents? But let's start with the World Bioeconomy Forum. So this is the initiative what was launched 2018. So this is now the 6th year as such. And what do we do within this World Bioeconomy Forum? We are very much promoting and facilitating bioeconomy and, if possible, circular bioeconomy, because it's not always the case that is only the circular bioeconomy. There are certain applications that the circularity does not make sense. So that's the reason we are very much supporting the bioeconomy and the best case the circular bioeconomy. How do we do that? We are organizing public events called roundtables and forums. These are public events. You are all welcome to join. Our latest roundtable took place in London together with Chatham House, and that was very much focusing on financing the bioeconomy. Very important topic also discussed here. And there we were having a look at what's up on the global perspective, how the investors do see this sector, how it is evolving, what kind of requirements, etc., and so forward. The next forum, it's actually already next Tuesday. So I'm going to leave to Washington on Saturday. And if you don't get the tickets, flight tickets, you can still join online on that occasion because it's a hybrid event. And there we are having a deeper dive what's up in US. We will have the speakers from the White House. We will have the speakers from the government, and then we are deep diving to certain topics like the biotechnology, what was mentioned also here in this occasion. Besides these public events, we do run membership programs, and we call that as World Bioeconomy Circle. It has been a part of the World Bioeconomy Forum, but as the now the bioeconomy is evolving, there are 60 biostrategies worldwide. Sweden just announced, it was last Friday, the biostrategy. Ireland a couple of weeks ago, so a number of the biostrategies is increasing. And we organized a survey on that, how the bioeconomy society to see that developments of the bioeconomy, how it should be organized, whether time is matter enough to having our own arrangement for the bioeconomy, like it is the case already for the climate change mitigation. The climate change mitigation talks are now on the way in Dubai, and things are aligned around that topic. Biodiversity, it has had already COP for 15 times, and things are, let's say, aligned around that. It's not directive, it's not a regulatory framework, but it's giving the ideas how these topics should be then organized. Where's the bioeconomy? Bioeconomy is, I have said that it's like little sister or little brother, but it doesn't have a voice yet. And we think it should have a voice. And that's the reason that we organized this survey, digital survey. We were asking from the bioeconomy community. We started this survey last February, and it lasted until October, and we will reveal these results next Tuesday. So I don't tell this all here to keep your attraction. But what I can reveal it already here, that seems to be that the bioeconomy society is not looking after to setting up the new COP, bioeconomy COP. It's too bureaucratic, and there's no sort of flavor on that. But seems to be that the bioeconomy society is looking after having let's say the partnership type of arrangement between the governments, between the companies, between the societies. So I think we are going to discuss about that next Tuesday in our forum. We will have there also FAO will be there in that panel. So Everything, who is running the FAO program within the bioeconomy. There will be also a Global Bioeconomy Summit, so Christine Lang will be there in place. So we will have a closer look on that topic. And thirdly, what we do is that, while we are in this sector, we are then certainly more than happy to provide some advisory services related to this bioeconomy. For example, we just recently did the survey for Sari and her crew on this, what's up in the global bioeconomy. So having a look what's up in Brazil, US, Canada, the EU, India, China, so making that sort of evaluation. What is particular for us is that we are organizing the bioeconomy around 4 pillars. And these 4 pillars are covering sort of, let's say, the major sectors of bioeconomy, and we think that's the way that how we can engage the various type of the stakeholders into this debate. So first of all, we have the policy pillar. We have named that as the Bioeconomy People Panel Policies. We are always hearing the very latest developments of the latest biostrategies. This time, in Washington, we will hear what's up in the US, what's up in Ireland, what's up in India. India is also very, very important. I think that it wasn't mentioned, at least today, but they are taking great steps into the bioeconomy. Then the second pillar is about the business corner, I would say so. It's about the corporate leaders and the financial world. This time, on Tuesday event, we are talking together with major financial institutes, including the World Bank, including the IFC, and what's their notion of the bioeconomy. And I'm sad to say that bioeconomy is not yet on their agenda. That's very clear conclusion what I can say already today. And I think that this is the handicap, and there we need to join our forces. Also, EU need to be part of that. It should bring up into the sort of agenda of the World Bank, IMF. They don't have that yet. They do have a lot of programs related to climate change mitigation and biodiversity, but nothing to do with the bioeconomy. So that's the reason we invited them to hey, come along to this World Bioeconomy Forum, and let's have a talk about that. Let's have a discussion, and hopefully it is bringing some ideas to them. What do we mean by the bioeconomy? Third pillar is also very important. Third pillar is related to the bioproducts. So we try to make this bioeconomy more explicit, even down for the ordinary consumers, by providing that what kind of, let's say, products and services this sector can provide. This year, we are focusing on the biotechnology. We have invited, let's say, among the, most advanced biotechnology companies to share in their story. There are companies like, Ginkgo Bioworks, very special case. Some of you might know them. It is US-based company. I don't say that everything is good in the US, but it's just a case example. And they are providing services for the big enterprises, and the big enterprises are outsourcing their sort of, let's say, the development work to the companies like Ginkgo Bioworks, who is then combining digitalization and the biotechnology to speeding up the development. Then we are having there bioresource topic. What about sustainable use of the bioresources? Yesterday somebody said about the bioresource that no one has talked about that elephant. We are trying to talk also about that elephant on next Tuesday. And how do we do that? This is also very important when you have a look on this global bioeconomies. What's the notion of the bioresources? And we made this study, but I just refer to you that when it comes to the bioresources, it's very, very interesting. What's up in US and in their strategy? They are now about increasing the use of the domestic biomass. They are using today about 400 million tons of the domestic biomass, including agri, including forestry, agriculture, you name it. And now, according to the latest policies, they are about increasing the utilization of the domestic bioresources, so up to 1 billion. So we are talking about that. And then finally, we are then having this look into the future, and there we are having a panel where we are talking about what about international collaboration related to the bioeconomy. And there we have representatives from FAO and other parts. I think that I need to stop.
I think I'm going to have to cut you off there, Jukka, because Marco has been sitting there extremely patiently through all of our introductions, and it's not the easy task to go last in this first round of introductions. So Marco, over to you.
Thank you. I think I could be short, because to all of what I've listened to, I just couldn't agree more. But let me give maybe one thought into the round, talking about sustainable innovation in that group here. I think you all heard about the innovation valley of death, right? And I was in Berlin this week at the German Bioeconomy Forum, and I heard it's not called the Innovation Valley of Death anymore. It's now called the Valley of Hope. Okay, I'll come back to that Valley of Hope, but I think what is true that we did a major march through that innovation Valley of Death over the last 10 years, thanks to the CBE JU, thanks to the European Commission, thanks to the European Parliament, thanks also to many private sector initiatives. And I think that march through that innovation Valley of Death was very much technology and finance driven. But I think compared to 10 years ago when we were talking about the innovation Valley of Death, I think the context has changed a little bit in the sense that with the European Green Deal, with this green transition, with going to net zero by 2050, this is fundamentally different to what we've seen in other transitions in industry, in the sense that you have to include the economic cost of pollution into the, let's say, innovation. So that means for sustainable innovation in the green transition, it not only needs to be net zero, it also needs to be, at the end of the day, net affordable, net reliable, and net competitive. And certainly bio-based is, I think, part of that solution. And what we have seen is that for all this green transition, there is a lot of policy drive. If you look at hydrogen, if you look at another renewable energy, solar, wind, this is very much policy driven. So I think my point here would be that for sustainable innovation on our side, we need more targeted policies to bring that innovation to the market. Which brings me back to the Valley of Hope. I mean, we've crossed the innovation Valley of Death, or a good part of it. I think the CBE JU, the two partners in that partnership, and many others here, I think they have good ideas to you know, how we can get to the next level to the sustainable innovation. And from an industry perspective, I guess we wouldn't want to talk about a Valley of Hope, but more like a Valley of bio-based markets or something like that.
I hope, Marco, we don't want to talk about the Valley of Death either. Maybe stagnation or something would be a less alarming word. Thank you all for your sort of setting out your stall there for us. I'm going to bounce around a little bit just so everyone stays awake. And Maria, I'm going to come to you first and ask whether the current instruments that we have, are they enough to support the very ambitious goals of the Green Deal?
On the Green Deal in general, yeah? Not at all. We have tremendous ambition for 2030. For 2040 and 2050, we will have a bit more time to prepare everything and to develop the technologies. But 2030, someone in the recent meeting was saying that is 72 months away, so
it's right around the corner.
And if we start looking at all the targets, binding targets, all that we need to change in terms of infrastructures, new technologies for aviation, for shipping, for the long-term distance transport. Transport is going to be a huge challenge for Europe, but also the housing, the energy efficiency in housing. All the targets on the relate with the advanced biofuels and the renewable fuels, the hydrogen in industry. So I have a piece of paper where I put all of them. And looking at that, for some we have technologies. For energy efficiency, if we are organized and we have funds, we maybe manage. But some of the areas we do not have the technologies yet. And it's very short to develop the technology, to prove the technology, to scale up and to use it. So it's a tremendous effort that we need to do until 2030. Another tremendous effort is the infrastructure. from the electricity infrastructure to the hydrogen infrastructures, all the infrastructures that are required in Europe. And if we start putting figures in terms of budget, and it's not clear what is the framework that we are going to use, who is going to pay. There is always the tendency to say that is the EU funding like we have here, but the EU funding is limited. So the national budgets, the private funds, the innovative schemes of funding are all required to make the Green Deal a reality.
Indeed, I am quite surprised to see that national government schemes is only 5% of the vote because, perhaps that's just a bias because we are in Brussels and people automatically go to what's nearby. Sorry, let me bring you in. Are the current instruments that we have at the moment sufficient, let's not just say for the European Green Deal's laudable aims, but for us to innovate sustainably indefinitely, shall we say?
Well, in that question, I would like to start from the very first comment of this panel discussion. We civil servants, we work in the very slippery field of between the policy and politics making. And civil servants use whatever instrument politics give to policymakers. We are the policymakers. And the politics seems to work here in 4 years periods, and we are missing this kind of long-term thinking there a bit. Especially I saw it now in Finland when we have the new government, and if the word green comes political, it is a problem then. In the previous elections, bioeconomy came political thing, and it was, giving the votes to the wrong direction. So if we want to have this continuity for the bioeconomy, my message to all the stakeholders is that please vote and think who you vote. I don't know, have the answer who to vote, but please do that. That is the only way to get the policy and politics work together and having these instruments also in the future. I think that is kind of the slippery field where we are, but we need more coherence on these tools, and with that way we could also save money for the actual work instead of using it a lot for consultants doing the applications for the companies. Thank you.
Peter, to come back to you, the same sort of question, but also if you feel like to build on what Sari and Maria have said as well, whether the instruments we have at hand are the right ones for, let's say, the short, the medium, and the long term, beyond the 4-year political cycle.
Let me repeat what I said. First, I think we can't do it alone. Yeah, I think it's indeed not only EU, but it's national funding, it's regional funding, but of course, very important private investments. Yeah, it's a big topic, and from my point of view, we have done a lot from the EU side to make the various instruments which we have with support from the European Parliament, with support from the member states, really to deliver tangible results on the European Green Deal, because you can use the cohesion policy, you can use agriculture policies, and also research and innovation through Horizon Europe funding. Let me there also be a bit more specific. I said before, from my point of view, bioeconomy is 100% European Green Deal compatible. Yeah, and therefore I would also argue it's very important that we have utilized Horizon Europe, which is simply really a very important instrument to provide targeted support in support of a circular and sustainable bioeconomy. We have, within the EU bioeconomy strategy, the 3 priorities supporting the bio-based industries. There we have the support for the joint undertaking Circular Bio-Based Europe. We also have the European Circular Bio-Based Fund, and we have other funding instruments. We have the second priority is to deploy the bioeconomy. And there we also have dedicated support instruments to bring, for instance, member states together. We have had a mutual learning exercise to give member states, regions that have not a bioeconomy strategy yet, the support needed to develop these strategies. We also have an initiative called BioEast, which is addressing the issue you have mentioned, that there are some member states in which you see less research and innovation on the Horizon Europe, but also less activities related to the bioeconomy. The BioEast initiative is also funded through Horizon Europe to give exactly these member states also support. The third priority within the EU bioeconomy strategy is to enhance the ecological footprint overall of the bioeconomy. And there again, we are also simply utilizing also funding from Horizon Europe in a targeted way to support that we are not only respecting sustainability principles, but that we are possibly also generating nature-positive solutions through a circular and sustainable bioeconomy. And there, in all of these categories, we can and we need to do more. But as I said, I think there are in Horizon Europe also dedicated instruments, focused instrument to provide targeted support to the circular and sustainable bioeconomy as one of the drivers, key enablers of sustainable innovation that is Green Deal compatible.
Kristen, I'd like to come to you to ask much the same question, but also to reflect a little bit on this vote. We're going to set aside EU funding, that's a given. People want more EU funding, don't they always? Next there on the list, there's 32% of people saying it should come from private companies. And I'm interested in whether you think that's valid. There is a tendency in the bioeconomy to think of businesses, because the technology is new, as small and agile and startups. But there are huge companies in this industry as well. We had Cargill on the podium yesterday. Should there be more onus on these big businesses to help fund the innovation for the future?
Yes, thanks. I mean, I think as always in these, there's not one answer, and probably, I mean, the innovation could come from all areas. So I think probably the people put here what they think is the most important.
We didn't put all of these, because then everyone would just vote for all of these.
Yeah, exactly. So, but of course there is a huge role for companies. I mean, just to take a step back on what we need and what is maybe lacking is what I said beforehand. It's really this issue of scaling, and I like this valley of hope. It's a very nice expression, but I think here this is something where we still need to do more, and I think because then ultimately it will be also companies in the end innovating. And I think what we have to make sure is, I mean, innovation can come from large companies, innovation can come from startups. And we need to make sure that we help innovation in both contexts, and we also bring them together. Because very often a startup has an innovative solution for a larger company, and there's already a lot of cooperation going on. We actually support some hubs where we make sure that, in particular, I would say mid-sized companies, which may be very successful in a certain area, but which, let's say, do not have the resources to have a lot of innovation out of the box in-house, whereas a larger company often has already almost an own internal startup department. So we try to bring together startups and some sort of larger mid-sized companies where you have very useful synergies. So I think this is really something we need to work on. We have, I think, very interesting innovative approaches already under Horizon with the European Innovation Council, where you're promising SME startup, and then you actually get blended funding. So you also get basically investment in your new venture. So I think we need a combination of those different aspects. And I think what it also shows here very clearly, and we have known this for quite some time, we need a better synergy between national and EU funding. We have worked, I mean, it's not a new topic, we have known this for some time, but I think there is still improvement to be made. And the other point, because I have a very, always a strong focus on SMEs, because I used to be responsible for a startup and SME policy for many years, we have to make sure that it's easier also for SMEs to get access to the funding. I'm not only talking specifically about funding which is targeted at startup and SMEs, but for the general funding, it's often, I mean, very administrative, complicated. I would like to stress that it's not us who invent all this bureaucracy and administration. We are, I mean, very often it comes from very tight constraints, and again, also it's not Maria and the Parliament, but it's, you know, the auditing, the budgetary committee, which then very often, I'm sure we collectively feel frustrated if we don't work on this budgeting side and auditing side, that basically we have to have a lot of, I would say, administrative constraints, which often make it unattractive for SMEs. And I'm always I have to say, I get very sad when I hear somebody say, look, you know, I'm not even applying, it's too complicated.
Yeah.
I have to invest a lot of money to actually make the submission with an uncertain outcome. And here, again, there is no easy fix because we have all these different constraints, but I think we have to work further on it also for the next research program, that we get down the barriers, the administrative barriers for SMEs to take part in our programs.
Marco, it says there, where should support for future innovation come from? Support rather than specifically funding. Perhaps you could build on what Kirsten is saying, that it's actually not necessarily about direct financial support. It can often be about fostering ecosystems and creating the environments for collaboration.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Is it, as Kirsten suggests, in some cases, less about direct funding to support innovation and more about fostering the right ecosystem or the right environment where different partners can collaborate to innovate?
I think both must come together. I mean, you can see that clearly in the CBE. I think the SME success rate in the CBE is above average. 80% of our industry members are SMEs. And if you listen to them, I think they see a big value in the cooperation and being funded in projects together with large industry and vice versa, because it's different pieces of the puzzle. I think you need to make that successful. But the CBE is just one example. I think what Kristen just said about the link between national and EU funding schemes, again, being in Germany, I think much more could be done there on that side to create that famous synergies, to see also from the state aid funding what is possible, where you need to notify national funding to the EU, where you can get exemptions. I think there's a lot of examples where more could be done, but yeah.
Ursula, let me come to you on this same question, because obviously the CAP falls under DG Agri, and that's a big pot of money, as we know. But to look at whether there are other instruments and what sorts of support instruments innovation needs for the future, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that.
Thank you. Yes, the CAP can complement what we do under, for example, Horizon Europe. The way we try to do it, and coming back to the funding and the challenges that our sector is facing and the transition that we ask them to make to become more sustainable for themselves and for the society, I think that additional funding is necessary because the challenges are still there. What the CAP can do as to complement what we do under Horizon Europe is to root down to farmer level the innovation. We already have some instruments inside. And I think we are the only policy who already have a specific objective that includes bioeconomy. So it was a big step for us, and we'll assess whether how far it could be also proposed for other policy instruments in the future. And we have specific actions that support bioeconomy already now in the CAP. And also to speak about this Hope Valley, we also have a specific instruments in the CAP that brings the farmers close to the innovation, which is the European Innovation Partnership, when we can test solutions on the ground. And that complements the instruments that we have under Horizon Europe, as we call them, the multi-actor approach, where we work also with the final users, the end users, when we do innovation. So in both cases, in the EIP Agri, so by the CAP, and by the multi-actor approach under Horizon Europe, we are doing the same. Doing innovation not for the farmers, for foresters, for rural communities, but doing with them. And that makes the change. So it's partially about money, and it's partially about the way of doing. If you want to have rooted local solutions that make change, that will help to reach out also the greening challenges, we need to do with them. And also to ask them what kind of innovation they need, and in what direction they would like to go. Bioeconomy is so broad, and circularity can be part of the solution, as we can go also for a wider way of seeing bioeconomy. So CAP can do a lot. We are now just really at the beginning of starting the discussion on the future. And of course, bioeconomy will be high in the agenda in our side also.
Peter, you wanted to make a point.
Yes, I agree, of course, very much with Orsolya. I think the CAP is a very important and excellent instrument that really can also help to bring the benefits of the bioeconomy also to the producers, the rural areas, the regions, which is very important to get also the social fairness and leaving no one behind dimension right. But I wanted to follow up also on what Christine and Marco said on and you asked about the innovation ecosystems. There, indeed, I mean, we also are having European policies. Horizon Europe is a European policy. The aim is to create a European research area. And under the European research policy, we also have a European innovation agenda. And one of the new instruments that former Commissioner Gabriel has asked us to develop are regional innovation valleys. And these are exactly meant to create these innovation ecosystems across Europe, create a European dimension. And I think, again, for you, the stakeholders here, that concept is promising. We have recently launched in Bulgaria, in Plovdiv, at the Agricultural University of Plovdiv, a thematic case of these regional innovation valleys for bioeconomy and food systems. That's a concept note. There are calls that will come forward in the coming years. But what we want to see is a stronger connection of innovators that are working in individual regions, also with those in other regions. This can be in really specific application cases. Yeah, we want to connect the biorefineries better, so that there is learning across the European Union. A case in point is precision fermentation. Yeah, there are companies all over Europe that are making tremendous progress, but through this approach, regional innovation valleys for bioeconomy and food systems, these actors could also be connected. And let me invite those of you who are thinking of good cases to have a look at this concept, regional innovation valleys for bioeconomy and food systems.
Well, thank you, Peter. There's a couple of things I want to pick up on there, but first, let me check if we have any questions in the room or any comments from the floor. Yes, I see one hand here on the 1, 2, 3, 4th row back in the middle. We'll get you a microphone.
Hello, thanks very much. Katharina Ossenberg from FIPRA. We are a consultancy public affairs based in Brussels and elsewhere in Europe. I just wanted to comment, I have a question related to the fact that private companies, are also meant to be supporting innovation. And yesterday there was a panel where basically a number of representatives of such companies said, we would like to, we are doing that, but the policies at the moment in Europe are not in such a way that they necessarily kind of support our investments, and they actually jeopardize these investments. Linking that to Marco's mentioning for the need for more targeted policies, I was just wondering, we have an EU election coming up next year, so basically I presume all of you are busy briefing the incoming Commission President, making strategic recommendations for from the Council, and also obviously, I mean, making party political manifestos. What are you going to write in those? I mean, to basically provide for a more apt framework. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, I don't want to give it away. I mean, we don't know exactly who's going to be getting which portfolio. You have it here. You know exactly what's happening next year. No, I mean, obviously, a lot of this is still up in the air. We don't know which countries will get which portfolios. So direct briefing for political reasons we don't know about yet. But presumably, those of you in the Commission are working on continuity policy advice. Sari, do you have a point you want to make on this?
Well, for the direct answer, I don't have, but what it made me think that how I explain how the process work to support the bioeconomy. So there are three important DGs. So DG Agri makes us the raw materials, then DG RTD is making us the innovations, and DG Grow is making the industry. But not just that, we need DG Klima, we need DG Environment to set the scheme, what are the limits of the planet, and one of the most difficult words that we have not mentioned here too many today is that how to reduce the consumption. Mm. We can use bioeconomy products to replace many fossil-based, but there's not enough fossil-based materials either to keep on going as we do. And I haven't seen too many politicians that are willing to make these kind of radical decisions in EU level. But then we have DG Regio, not to forget them, sorry, also very important instrument. So we have this kind of triangle and this supportive circle around it, and I think all these should play together so that we have the future of the bioeconomy secured.
I mean, we could even have DG Connect as well as to represent the digital technology side, but we would run out of seats on the podium. Yes, Jukka, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, maybe one comment, related to that, how to maybe sort of, let's say, promote the use of the bio-based products. So now, the COP meetings is underway, and they are all, let's stipulate in rules which is affecting on us and our behavior, and now when we have a look on the bioeconomy, or when we have a look about the bioproducts, there's no incentives for the bioproducts when it comes to climate change mitigation. And still the bioproducts are very much superseding fossil-based alternatives. Then we are then talking about substitution effects. That's totally missing for time being from these stipulation or the regulation which is coming from the climate change mitigation. EU is taking the lead in this communication on this debate, and having a Green Deal and being carbon neutral by over 2035 to 2040 depends on and where you are in your own state. But that could be the one way that you could then boost in the use of the bio-based products. That was discussed actually last year in Egypt. It was the very first time that in the COP meeting, the climate COP meeting, there was a topic on the bioproducts. So they said incentivized, but it's not yet there. I know that there was yesterday there was some they said communique about that. It was related this time on the wood, but the wood building and this sort of things, which are also storing the carbon out of the atmosphere. That is missing, and I hope that the next EU Commission will contemplate also about that, because this is additional boost for the bio-based products.
Thank you. I want to stress as well that the colleagues here from the different DGs and the Commission and the Commission General are not party political beasts specifically. Maria, you are an elected politician, so perhaps you can give us a little bit more insight into those sorts of pressures.
Now, trying to answer to the question, what the political groups are doing and the European parties are preparing the manifesto and the political statement for the elections. And we have chosen in our group exactly the question that you have mentioned as one of the first priorities, or even the first priority. And we are doing a series of workshops. We had yesterday one that we call it competitiveness workshop, to analyze all the barriers. We know most of them, but and the solutions. And we are also command a study to help us, and that is going to be part of our program for the European elections. And things like the excessive reporting, the burden of reporting to the private sector, the bureaucracy burden, the complexity of the legislation that SMEs and even big companies are very difficult to deal with. How they are going to cope with so many new regulations, directives, both in the green area, but also on the digital, because on the digital, DMA, DSA, Data Act, AI Act, they are all quite demanding. They are very good, but they are demanding for our companies. So how they are going to survive all of this, and also the scarcity of investment that there is in the European scene. So we are very worried about this, and we are trying to propose solutions for that. I hope that the others are also doing the same, and after the votes can choose. But I want to talk a little bit following what was already said on the European elections. It's very important to vote, but it's also important to see and to avoid the political groups that deny science, deny vaccines, deny climate. We have a lot already in the parliament on that, and it's very difficult to work. So I'm not doing a campaign, but just saying, be very aware, and because it's going to have a difficult life if you have to deal with a strong parliament with deniers of science, and so vote well.
Sobering thought. We have a question here in the second row. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ingeborg Korme, and I am the coordinator of a Horizon 2020 ERANET co-fund on blue bioeconomy. And I just wanted to say something that we found, so it's almost finished, my ERANET, and I wanted to say something that we've really appreciated. And this is this co-fund model. So it comes back to the poll, actually, because a co-fund is the combination of national government money and the European money, and we see that when we've had mandatory industry partners in our R&I projects, and the industry partners, have been allowed to only report to their country, then it really simplifies their participation in European projects, and they've said that this really helped them be part of European projects. So they didn't have to deal with Horizon 2020 reporting, only their own country, their own language, their own reporting, and that really helped them into this environment. And starting with a co-fund project, it helped them find the network and learn, and then move on to more complicated aspects, if you could say that. So I just wanted to say that this is something we've learned, and it's been really useful, and I think also for a joint undertaking, this is an important aspect.
Well, you've sort of done my job for me, because we are right at the end. I'm afraid, because we've only got a limited amount of time left and so many panelists, and I do have a final question that I need all of you to address, because I've been told you absolutely must. which is to answer whether the joint undertaking model does ensure enough flexibility and achieve impact. This is the sort of message we want to know. What can we do better? We've had some thoughts there about coherence and complementarity and direct reporting to member states. So I'd really like to get from each of you a thought, perhaps a takeaway on the joint undertaking model, but how it's flexible, is it flexible, are the stakeholders involved enough, and what would be your recommendations or plaudits for the future with regard to that? Peter.
I would argue that we have developed a fantastic role model for which other partners, bioeconomy partners around the world envy us. And a very important aspect is that the joint undertaking for Circular Bio-Based Europe is indeed, it already has a history, and we have developed a mutual understanding between the industry partner and the public sector, and we have jointly developed flexible schemes, but we also have developed jointly a forward-looking agenda to innovate sustainably, and I think that is a fantastic achievement. And let's think about how we could also help other international partners to build up such an excellent instrument. I think that would be one of my wishes I put under the Christmas tree.
Well, thank you. Maria, what are your wishes for the Christmas tree for the joint undertakings of the future?
I think I have said in my initial intervention that more simplification and with more of flexibility will have as consequence a easy way to do more synergies, so to attract more funding, both for the private but also with the member states. There are some joint undertakings that have the member states as members, like the key digital technologies that now is the CHIPS joint undertaking. The member states are also members, so it increased the budget, the high performance computing the same, but makes it complex. Yeah? So if we manage to get it simple, could be a good solution to get also the member states, and would be a quite big increase on budget and ambitions of the joint undertaking. It's something that we could, but I don't recommend it if it's not simple enough, otherwise it complicates life.
Kirsten?
Yes, I mean, my remarks on improvements that are concerned Horizon in general, I think as far as this particular joint undertaking is concerned, I think we are very, very happy. I think when you look at the projects, you actually usually exceed the KPIs. We have good leveraging effect. And as my neighbor pointed out, what I'm particularly happy is that we have a very good uptake in terms of SMEs. I think that's crucial. My wish would maybe be that a lot of this good work done and the wonderful projects gets more visibility. Mm-hmm. I think this is a joint effort we all have to undertake, as the CBE ourselves, because I think there is a lot which also others can learn from it. Because let's face it, I mean, it's quite a substantial investment as well of public money. And I think in order to make sure that we have all this sort of best practice spreading out, this for me is the one thing we have to work on even further, that it gets better known and that it can get replicated even, easier outside. But otherwise, I think this is for me, and I'm actually the board of several joint undertakings, and I've seen others. For me, this is really one which works, which has traction, and which is a very important tool for us as well in support of our policies.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, and shout about successes. Okay.
Just say, I fully agree that worked very well. I was rapporteur of the 11 one, and I really like this joint undertaking, but we can increase the
Constructive advice is not necessarily criticism. Marco, very briefly, your thoughts.
Well, I started with hope, and I think certainly the CBE provides hope. I guess what we will look into is how we can turn hope into action. And I think the CBE projects, they should do their first commercial footsteps in Europe. So let's see how we, together, private and public partner, can take a look at that so that when the end of the day we have net zero and net competitive.
Jukka?
Yeah, I think what Peter said, that this CBE joint undertaking is very particular to Europe, and it's a good model. And I haven't found similar arrangement in another parts of the world, so that's then the product to be then exported. But on the other hand, what could be then important now when we have a look at how the other regions are now accelerating the developments of the bioeconomy, there need to be a clear accountability, and that's the message also for the next EU Commission. So hopefully there is a one account responsibility who is running this bioeconomy, showing that this is important for the EU. Now when we have a look that what's happening in the US, it's the White House who is taking the lead. White House is taking the lead. They are taking the policies, and things are just developing there and very fast pace. The very same in China. China is a people congress. They have addressed, hey, this is important for us. We need to do something on that. And not only these superpowers. Now when we have a look at Brazil, that Lula government has addressed and nominated there's a bioeconomy secretary. Again, they're showing paving the way that this is important for us. And India is having the own department who is running this. So we need to join the forces, and Europe need to hit back.
Thank you, Jukka. A little bit beyond the scope of the joint undertaking, we're not operating in India just yet. Orsolya, your thoughts and advice for the future?
What I would say we like the most in this joint undertaking, and yes, it's something that we could export as a good practice, is the discussion between public and private. And I would really say it's a real discussion, listening to each other. And in the future, very close future, I hope that we will be able to launch a deployment group that will have primary producers. That is a super action. So we can listen to each other and to understand why it is a common interest to go for that. So I hope that we will continue in that direction. So we keep this European way of doing inclusive. So to share the opportunities that the bioeconomy represents for all the sectors, for all the territories, and for all the actors. And for all the, what I said, sectors, actors, and territories. Is the third one. Thanks.
And Sari, you're bookending this discussion, so last word.
More funding, more fun. I think that is kind of the easy way to say it, and that's what we all are thinking. Big thanks to CBE office. They have done extremely good job and worked hard to get everything together. And also big thanks to bio-based industry consortium. I think also they do a lot of hard work in the field to get more companies and more countries involved. And I think this kind of the joint other kind of work than just funding the projects are also very much welcome. So if we could have more funding for that. So that is kind of my wish for the Christmas. Thank you.
Well, thank you all very much for your Christmas wish lists. I will convey that back to the plenary when we meet again there at 2:30. You can find us back in the main auditorium then. There's a lunch break now, and give a warm round of applause to our panellists.